everybody. It is Tuesday and it is 2 o'clock, so that means it's time for Top 5 Tuesday. I'm your host from Crate Insider, Kate Dillon, and I have a special guest with me today. This is Jason Grubb from Dayton Lamina. And Jason, you and I have been working together like even before I started Crate Insider.
It's been several years now.
Yeah, so we've been friends for a long time. He was my first guinea pig when it came to shooting videos out in the wild. Like I'd done a couple, like at the shop, but you were the first one.
Right, and I made the comment earlier, you've come a long way from the iPhone video, so this is pretty impressive. You've got
yeah, well, thank you so much. Yeah, we got like webcam, we got another camera. It's a little overwhelming when I had like my iPhone 4s or 5s back then. And
right.
I think I just bought a tripod, but I was actually trying to film something. I was filming Neil when we were at SKE Karts, and I'm filming, but I'm watching him, and so I'm not paying attention, and so it gets off frame, and oh my gosh, it was that we dealt with that. Actually, I don't think I had a tripod because then that's why the video is so shaky. I don't know.
It all worked out.
Yeah, and with that, so of course, what is it that I sell from Dayton Lamina, and that would be DeLoup. So let's talk about the ways that it comes. It started out with, it was just tubes and it was just jars, but then after that, you came out with...
the syringe.
Yeah, so what's cool about the syringe is that it's so good for precision greasing.
Exactly, and it's kind of, the one thing with DeLoup is you need just such a small amount of grease. Mm-hmm. It's not like a conventional grease where you have to just sit there and pack the bearings like you normally would. DeLoup, you need enough to get just a good coating, and that's it, because it's not going to get hot and melt and run out of your bearings. It's what was the term? Aquaphobic is the term I used earlier. It's not going to just be easily washed out of your bearings, and which is one of the good things that I know racers like about it a lot is they can hit it with the pressure washer, it's going to stay in. Mm-hmm. So the calcium sulfonate base that DeLoup is made with actually is very good at repelling the water, won't mix with the water.
That's pretty cool. And then, like, how often do you need to re-grease your bearings, or what goes on
That depends, and depending on what series you run, what car you run, how many laps your feature is, that can vary. In a general sense, you can get 2 to 3 times, if not more, the amount of races than you did. We've had people who have kept going with it, and then they get to the point where they say, I've never went this far, I'm going to go ahead and re-grease it just because I don't want to, I'm afraid to go any further, even though it's still rolling fine and the grease looks fine and all that. But it's like, it's trying to I guess to trust a product or whatever, where it's like, it doesn't seem like it needs to be replaced, but I've never run one this far. It can be intimidating, I think. So. Well,
that makes sense. I mean, if there's one thing you can always, there's no such thing as over-maintaining your race car.
Exactly.
Oh, and I want to talk about some of the other uses, and I forgot something over here. So I want to talk about some of the other uses for DeLoup, because I haven't just sold this for race cars.
That's right.
Yeah, one of the most popular ones is, I'm going to do this off camera here, but because I really don't want Facebook to get super mad at me. But if any of you are gun-holding Americans like I am, then the big thing I've heard is using it for gun slides.
And that is an application that I learned about from you. And but yeah, we've had people do that, especially with like the syringe, where you can take it and you can grease the slide with it, and there again, it's just such a small finite amount is needed.
Yeah, so that is a really cool feature that I know that we've used. My gun's newer, so I haven't had to re-grease the slide at all, but I know that the guys at the shop, they definitely have used it and loved it for that purpose. I probably should use it, but anyway, I just don't use my gun a whole lot.
Right.
Another use for that too is I've had food service companies or food manufacturers.
Right. Well, we also have DeLoup in a more industrial packaging, I guess, and it is food grade or it's I can't think of the certification right now, but it is food grade approved.
It's like USDA or something, or OSHA, I don't know. It's got
H1
something.
approved. I can't think of the designation, but there is The industrial version of the grease, which is in a teal tube, is food grade approved. So yes, I mean,
so P.S. If that is your industry, feel free to call me and I can get you the industrial grade tube so that get it to you by the case and work with you.
And there again, you know, we've got people who are using that. Like bakery ovens or conveyors that go through ovens, you know, the high heat and not melting.
Coffee
and
machines,
out. Exactly.
like espresso machines. Another one of my customers uses it for that. So pretty neat stuff, and it's so cool to have you on the show today.
Well, no,
helping out.
I appreciate it. And you know, we have several customers using that beyond the race cars. I've had several of our drivers use it on their trailers. And just, you know, for the wheel bearings on their trailers. Richard Lynch from Prankster Race Products, he told me that he was actually one of the first guys who actually tried it in his dirt late model. But he would go through the mountains in West Virginia, and the trailer he'd have to pull over and cool his trailer bearings and go a little further, cool them again. He put DeLoup in, he can go straight up and back now, no issues. So. Yeah, a lot of uses beyond the race car itself. So.
And then it's also at a really great price point too. So your syringes there, they run $16.99, and then the tube or the jar, they're the same amount of ounces. What are these, like 16 ounces? They run $45.79. I'm going to take a quick look at the comments here and see if anybody has any questions. If you guys have any questions for Jason and for DeLoup, feel free to drop them in here for sure. And I see someone is already knows what my sign said last week, so I'll get to that in just a second here. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in here. Here's Brad says, I'm going to try my DeLoup on my S&W. I didn't think to use it on my gun. So yeah, it really works great. So great little use for that. And so let's talk about what we're giving away today.
Okay.
Yeah, that you brought this. Actually, I'll leave this one in the package because I have one right here, because everyone needs a DeLoup fidget spinner. So just for fun, right here we have our DeLoup fidget spinner, and all you need to do is leave a comment. You can say hi, you can drop in a question, kind of whatever, and at the end of this video we'll do a drawing and just use random number generator. Jason sees that up on the screen there, so he'll keep me legit, and we'll just pick a winner that way. For our other drawing, because we do a second drawing every week, if you remember what my sign said last week, then just go ahead and drop that in as a comment, and that'll be a separate drawing. And this week I'm giving away another sling grip. So my sling grips, these are so fun because you just use it on the back of your phone, and it'll stick whether you're using it on just a phone without a case, which I know most people think I'm crazy that I use a phone without a case, or if you have a case, they actually stick really, really well. And then it allows you, it's a little piece of an elastic band that allows you to put your fingers in there and hold on to your phone like magic. So that's what we got going on there. All right, so with that, I do have one other featured item I want to mention to you guys as well, is in case you missed it, last week we posted a video from our friends at Daytona 1. So Buck Parker was up here, and so Buck, we talked about the penetrating spray lube. So professional spray lube, penetrating spray lube, kind of playing with the name a little bit, but it's still the same product regardless. And in fact, I mean, tool and die, I mean, this is some fluid that guys are using for cutting. So at the shop, they use it for cutting and keeping their drill bits better, in line. And so it's really great for that. And then it can also be used like on Heim joints. You know, a lot of those areas, wherever you would kind of use WD-40, you could use this instead. So it's kind of, we've got grease and a spray lubricant.
That's right.
We're all about that. He's keeping things like not friction. Like friction is bad. Anti-wear, anti-friction. So the spray lube, it's like lube day. Facebook is never going to let me monetize it and do this as an ad. I've had a gun and I've said lube a whole bunch of times. But these run, let's see, $6.97 for the 4-ounce container or $12.95 for a 12-ounce. So there's that. All right, well, and I decided that we were going to do a special show. I knew Jason was going to be here, and I thought we'd do a special fun show so that we don't see the same top 5 products all the time. So I thought we would talk about cooling this week. So
sure.
talking
Sounds
about
good.
like our top 5 cooling products, I didn't really do these in order, but I thought we would start from like the front of a race car and move on back. So in the number 5 spot, or just the first product we're going to show here, is a radiator from AFCO. So a question we get a lot of times is, what kind of radiator, I guess I should put it not upside down, but what kind of radiators do we recommend? And we definitely recommend going with a double pass radiator. So a double pass radiator is kind of that sweet spot, kind of that Goldilocks spot where a single pass is too much flow, and a triple pass, you'd think that would be best, but it's not, because you need so much more water pressure to get it at that sweet spot. So going with the double pass is definitely the way to go. And then a tip that I picked up from Ben Baker from AFCO was that I get these with a universal female inlet, or whatever, this thing up here. And that way, what you can do is, a lot of times when you have AN fittings and then you're putting AN fittings on top of it, you can end up cross-threading. So instead, by having this universal female inlet and then having this inlet here, which gets you to a -16 or -20, then you've got this machine fitting that you put your AN fitting on, and you're just less likely to like warp, cross thread and all of that, because the last thing you want to do is have to replace an entire radiator over a $30 part. So this is the AFCO. This one happens to be the 80185. It's a really lightweight. It's pretty lightweight, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Nice
I don't know exactly what it weighs, but it's not a lot. So yeah, anyway, I've got just a little scale in here, like a postal scale. That's not going to help us. So that's in the number 5 spot, and this radiator runs $347.99. And that little inlet that I was showing you, it runs $31.99. So we've got that. All right, next up. So once you have a radiator, you got to put something in it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So for that, we have KoolAid. And actually, I've got another one right there. So the KoolAid, this is from our friends at Maxima. And KoolAid comes in a couple of different sizes here. So this is a 16 ounce and
64.
And 64. But they're kind of exactly the same thing. So this one is a concentrate that you want to mix with water, and this one's ready to use. So you can just dump it in there. This is probably the one you want to have in the shop because it takes up less space. That's the one you want to have in the trailer. And just as a little side note or tip, anytime you're putting water into your radiator, you want to use distilled water, because distilled water isn't going to have any of the minerals in it, and it won't cause any scale, nothing like that. You know exactly what you're getting with distilled water, and just any of those impurities can cause some problems. So, spend the, I don't know, $1 a gallon, whatever.
It's in most places not even that. It's like 80 cent or 60 cent or something.
Yeah,
so it's nothing.
So definitely go even to the dollar store or grocery store. Send somebody to the store and get a distilled water instead of getting out the garden hose. That's actually a cooling tip right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so these either size runs $9.95 for the KoolAid. All right, next up is fans. I get lots of questions about fans too. So probably our most popular out of all the fans is our 3-blade race fan. Now, depending on what kind of car you have, whether you have if you have a modified versus a late model, a lot of the modified guys go with a 17-inch fan, whereas the late models tend to go with a 19-inch fan. 3 blades seems to be, again, like that sweet spot. When it's a little hotter, you may want to use a 4-blade, so you could always get it as a 4-blade. And then, in case these are new to you, what's cool about these, well, you'd normally bolt in these blades, but the whole idea of it is they're interchangeable blades. So you can easily make this a 3-blade, a 4-blade, or 2-blade, any of those. And the 3-blade version, it runs $217.50. So far we've got a radiator, we've got antifreeze, well, it's not antifreeze, it's a radiator, I don't know, cooling fluid, and we have a race fan. Yeah, next up in the number 2 spot as we move back, so we've started there, we're moving back. One of my super popular products, and I love this product. I just think I just love this product. It's a cold air box from our friends at Dominator. And what I love about this is I've heard lots of racers who try to fabricate, and they hate making fan shrouds, and they hate making cold air boxes. So this way, you have a ready-made solution. It comes with a gasket. The gasket will just sit right on top of your air filter base. Then you set your cold air box on there. Now, you really, for a height, this whole idea of this is you want to cut it down so that it just kind of matches up with the bottom of your hood. And in some cases, some guys cut these down, I mean, just within just fractions of an inch to the base of it. I mean, whatever you need to do there in order to get it to fit under your hood. And this, what it does, it'll separate that engine heat, that hot air from the engine, from your air filter, because we always want to have the coolest air possible.
Cold air makes horsepower.
Absolutely. And go ahead and tell us how much that is, Jason.
The cold air box runs for $69.
Yeah, so what a bargain. I mean, gosh, you certainly can't get it fabricated for that.
Good price.
It's heavy duty, and it's not going to transfer heat either, because that plastic, metal is going to transfer heat. So even if you make something, you're still going to have some heat transfer.
That's right.
So that's pretty cool. And then, since we're talking about cooling and we've been talking about DeLoup, where would DeLoup fit in on helping with cooling?
Well, one thing at DeLoup, you should notice your bearings running cooler if you use it, properly. It's we mentioned before about physically using less grease, just enough to get a good thin coat on your bearings. And when you do that and you're not packing the bearing like you conventionally would, you're able to pull a lot more air through the bearing. And so that's going to cool your bearing as well. So you get it's going to run cooler, but you're still going to be protected. You're going to get the longevity of it, and the less friction. So, but yeah, as far as cooling products, DeLoup fits right in there.
Well, and it makes so much sense when you talk about the air moving through. It kind of reminds me of when you have fins bent on a radiator, or the radiator is stuck with a full bunch of clay or mud or whatever, and you don't get the airflow. That's when you have overheating. So it's exactly the same thing with that. Well, how cool. All right, well, that gets us to our last product that we're talking about for cooling, and I'm going to let Jason grab it, is our Daytona 1 3060 gear oil. Now, again, this is not exactly what you would think of when we think about cooling, we think about fans and such, but using this as your gear lube, like especially in quick change rear ends, because it will lower the friction, it lowers the parasitic drag, you don't have the friction, you don't have the heat, and I know some guys will change their gears with their bare hands without even gloves.
Wow.
Yeah, so it'll keep it that cool, and that little bit of difference, it makes a big difference for sure, as far as performance.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is our Daytona 1 3060 gear lube, and that runs $68.19 for that whole gallon. So with that, I'm going to take another look at the comments, and remember, we're giving away our DeLoup fidget spinner and our Crate Insider sling grip here. And let me see, we've got lots of comments, and we do have Alex in the office today helping out, and I'm going to give him a number here, and he's gonna help me find a winner. Great. And couple of winners here while I take a look at the comments. Okay, so I'll get him that number. Here we go. Great, so I should have some answers in a moment here. And in the meantime, I'm going to take a look, see what we got here. Lots of familiar faces, or a lot of familiar names, I should say, because I don't actually know what all of your faces look like here. But I see tons of people knew what the sign said. That makes it fun. And just looking for any questions here. Danny says we need a Kate Dillon on the West Coast. I always call him West Coast Danny, and he always calls me, hey, East Coast is what he'll send me a message with those. And Tim says the cold air box is really nice. Mine is maybe 1 inch tall. So yeah, you definitely have experienced that. Someone asked, do I stock R2C air filters? I used to. Not sure what happened with that company. Just couldn't get the products anymore. So we loved those filters. Just couldn't get them anymore is the problem there. So it looks like we have our first winner. Our first DeLoup winner is, I can't quite read that far. There we go. Matthew Tarbox. So I'm going to write down your name here. So Matthew, if you would, please send me a private message with your address, and I will send you this fidget spinner, whether you want to have it for yourself or if you have kids, I don't know, but I had one in my office because they're fun. And let's see, Jody Miller. So Jody, you are the winner of our sling grip, our Crate Insider sling grip. So I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this week. Thank you for being part of the show, and I will look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 2 o'clock for Top 5 Tuesday. Have a great week.